Okay, today's video, since I've been asked to do more videos and I don't have a game topic I want to discuss right now, I want to talk a little bit about how to get the most out of your washes. A lot of people know about these washes from GW like Agrax Earthshade, another one of my favorites, Reichland Flesh Shade, but there's a way that you can get a better effect, at least in my opinion, with a few simple preparation techniques. And the look that I've been going for, and I'll show you that with these finished Romans here, is that shading on campaign, slightly grubby look, but it gives a really good effect if you prepare the surface under the wash correctly. You can get a little bit more out of your wash than just making it look dirty, but you can actually get a lot more depth of color, I think. And I really like the effect that I get with the washes, and it makes my painting, faster and simpler. So we start out with a figure like this, which I've already prepared for wash. So this figure's been painted and it's ready for the wash, and what I want to talk about is what I did to prepare it for the wash. As you can see, the skin tone's quite a bit lighter, and you can see the highlighted, almost blotchy, lighter tones of skin that I prepared. And I did a similar thing with the tunic as well, a little bit less dramatic. So for the skin tone preparation, I like to start, I do tend to do black prime for my figures, so they're all, as you can see by the base, all black primed. But then I start with a rosy shadow for this particular skin, because I'm kind of going for Caucasian, Middle Eastern look when I get done with the wash. Rosy shadow, paint the entire surface of the skin area with the rosy shadow. Then the next layer is rosy skin. And I'll almost completely cover the rosy shadow with the rosy skin, although there will be some areas, that recesses, crevices I might leave behind with the rosy shadow showing through. But mostly I'm covering it with this rosy skin completely. And then the last thing that I do is, you can see this in these very dramatic areas where you see the kneecaps, the high spot on the top of the thigh, the fingers. I will very, very lightly cover with this highlight, or rosy highlight. Okay, so these come in triples. They call them triples, I guess, where you have basically these three shades are designed to work together. And the idea is that I'm building the color up as I get closer to the surface. It's getting lighter and lighter, so my high points become quite dramatic. Now, for some people, they like that look just as is, and they might leave it that way. What I'm going for is a little bit more blended look. So what I like to do is build these three colors up to this highlight and then wash them back down. So what I'm going to do now, and I've done something similar with the tunic, which it's not quite as noticeable, but you'll see the tunic is not all one color. It's gotten lighter on the fringes. So now that I've done that, I will prepare my washes. Usually like to shake them a little bit. And I'm going to work with both of these kind of at the same time. So the first thing that I do is I take the Reichland Flesh Shade, and I will put the Reichland Flesh Shade in the fleshy areas. And I won't worry too much about getting it onto the other parts of the model, because I'm going to continue the washing process immediately with the Agrax. So I use Reichland Flesh Shade, which has got a little bit of a red tint to it, on the fleshy areas. And my goal being that I'm going to wash that completely over the flesh. It's okay if I get a little bit onto the tunic or the other parts of the model. But the key with these washes is also that you want to keep working with them while they're wet, and you don't want to stop and restart. When they, because they're tend to be an alcohol base, they don't like being reactivated. If you go back over them again, you'll find that they do reactivate, and it will cause a blotchy effect. The other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to get them wet. You don't want to try and water them down like you do with paints, because they're not really a water base, they're more of an alcohol base, and they will tend to get foggy, I find, if you get water in there. So I like to work with them all the time, all at once, cover the entire area that I'm working with. So this is the skin tone, and I use Reichland on this particular skin tone. I find that it works better than the Agrax because it's got that little bit of a red tint to it. Make sure I've gotten all the skin. And now, while it's still wet, I'm going to switch over to the Agrax Earthshade, which is really good for brown. Well, it's good for almost any color, but it's really good for browns, tans, anything with a red tone to it. You can use it on, you know, white and blues and other colors like that, although it'll come out a little bit more of a dirty color. But you can get a good effect with it. But it works great on anything that is obviously an earth tone. It also works really good on metal. So I find it works very good on the metal colors because it will give a very nice tint to metallic paints as well. So I'm going to use it on the bronze helmet, and I'm going to use it on the my spear tips as well. So working that one, and you get it around the edges, you'll notice that what it tends to do is it tends to cover up any I would call gaps in the paint near the edges. So when you get near an edge where you may not have gotten quite exactly the perfect paint line, this tends to cover up those minor issues around those edges, and it really does a nice effect in covering up any kind of flaws that you might have in your original paint job. So as I say, it covers up your sins pretty well. It works best when you have a good flow to it so that it can flow. So don't try to dry brush this. It wants to be gooped on a little bit more, but you do have to watch for the low spots and use your brush after touching it to your paper towel to pull off any excess where you see it's too heavy maybe. And depending on how much shading you want, you can work it into these creases. So now that I've got the figure done on the bottom, I want to go up and touch the helmet as well. Like I said, I like to use this on the entire model that is not skin. And this will give a very nice effect when it dries. To what I used was a very bright bronze color, and this will tone that bronze back down, and it gives a nice effect or shading effect to the bronze as well. And then I like to wick out with the dry brush anything where I think it's too heavy. Okay, so now I need to set that one aside, and I'll show you a very similar model that I've done with these two. Make sure these are closed tight. And as you can see, when it dries, the effect is to basically bring all those colors back in on the skin tone. So you can see that it kind of blurs the lines or reblends the color that I put on the skin tone quite nicely. But it also provides a little bit more depth or shading in some of the darker spots on the model. So I really like the effect that it gives. And it's a way to, you know, with a fairly simple block painting, you can create a very dynamic model. And with a little bit of that highlighting that I mentioned on the skin, for example, or on the tunics, you can get a lot more out of the effect from your wash as far as the depth that you will achieve in the color variation. So that's just a quick example of what you can do with those washes, and I hope you give it a try at home and see what you think as far as the effect that you can achieve. That's Reichland Flesh Shade Agrax Earthshade from Citadel or GW, combined with a tricolor Reaper series that uses 3 different tones for the skin. This effect also works on darker tan skin and dark shadow skin that I've used it as well. I think it gives a very nice effect, especially with these figures that have the very dynamic poses. So, hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you find it useful. Thanks for watching.